Thank you very much. I think the first time I watched this documentary, it left me with a combination of emotions. And so today, we have the privilege and opportunity to speak to Lavinya and Eberechukwu, who are part of the Black curriculum, the producers of this short film. Can we please put our hands together and applaud the Black curriculum? We're going to go straight into the conversation, Lavinya. Firstly, thank you and welcome to Wakati Wetu.
Asante sana, I'm happy to be here. And thank you also for your support for Omitted and just everything that you do as well. We're really inspired. And thank you for coming.
Excellent. Yes. Eberechukwu. We can use my mic.
I think it's, Hi, I'm Eberechukwu. I'm a young champion at the Black curriculum. I'm so excited to be here. This festival and everything it stands for, all the meaning within it, is brilliant. And I think we need to get more of this and bring it back with us to Britain, but also build on what's happening here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And we're going to start, firstly, so that people know the Black curriculum, or people know about Lavinya. And then we will talk about the theme and the emotions that it triggered. And we will also talk about what has happened since this film was produced and where it has been screened, what actions have followed as a result of this, the production of this film, and what you, as members of this movement, members of this global reparatory justice community, what you can do to advance the message that you will be hearing from Lavinya. I'm going to start with you, Lavinya. I want you to briefly tell us about yourself and your journey that brought you to Kenya and to Wakati Wetu.
Okay, so I'll try and make this all make sense. My name is Lavinya Stennet, and I am a Jamaican heritage person. I was born in the UK, but my understanding of coming into this work around African studies actually started here in Kenya. So
This is homecoming.
It's weird, because literally, I think it was 9 years ago, I was here with my mum, who I didn't actually grow up with. So it was almost like a connection point for us. And whilst here, I got my university results, which said that I didn't get into my first choice. So ultimately, I had to go through this system where, any university that has a place will accept you. So I said, okay, the only university that had a degree was SOAS, which is called the School of Oriental and African Studies. And I didn't know this at the time, but it was formerly a colonial institution where people used to go to be trained to further go back into Africa to colonize. So I didn't know that, but the only degree that they had was African Studies. And I said, well, here we go, I must do it. And it took me on this journey for the last last 9 years of just understanding myself. And through that, the Black curriculum was born. And then through the Black curriculum, Omitted was born. And then Omitted has taken us back here. So yeah, Nita Foray to be here, but also the fact that we are also with a young person that is the extension of our mission. And for me, it's really important that young people are at the heart of any reparative movement or any education justice movement that is done, because our voices matter. And it's not just our voices, it's about the experiences that often are left out when we're thinking about who's on the stage to speak, or who has the mic, or who has the theory to advance the conversation, when a lot of this is just about lived experience. We've all been through an education system in which we've been taught or not taught about Black history or colonization in a truthful way. So for me, it's really important that young people are always at the heart of everything we do.
Thank you very much for that. I think you've mentioned a few things which will trigger questions that I didn't write. And one of them is that you chose African studies. It felt like it was like a last resort option.
It was a last resort.
But for me, the symbolism in that is that it's always African issues are always put at the bottom of the rung, right? And that study then led to the birth of the Black curriculum. Please tell us about the Black curriculum before I come to Ebere Chukwu.
Okay, so in 2019, I was doing a lot of activism at university because I could just see there was issues. Black students were not having Black teachers teach them about Black history. So you would have a white person who had spent 5 years in Kenya or 5 years in Namibia and were like, okay, I'm the authority on the subject. So they would come in and tell us all these things. And it's like you'd have Africans in the class, people of Caribbean descent in the classroom, and like, it's just not making sense. So I was doing a lot of activism. And then I think because of that, I was just so passionate about seeing our histories taught truthfully, but then also taught by us, and not just in 1 month, because in the UK we have Mwezi Moja, 1 month to literally learn about our histories, and that's not enough. Like, it's October, and that's it. And then, the next month it goes back to quote-unquote normal, and that's the point. Why is white history seen as normal? So for us, when I say us, it was myself, my friend at the time, who is still my friend now, and we were just having a conversation, and I said, look, I want to put together a timeline that basically highlights the connection between Black histories, or African histories, and colonialism, and then also Maoris, because Maoris are the indigenous people of New Zealand, and I wanted to kind of showcase the similarities of how our land has been taken, everything has been wiped out. And then he told me, you can think bigger than that. So that's how the Black curriculum was born. And then from there, it's just grown. Like, what we have done is gone into schools. We work with students one-to-one, and also outside of schools. We train the teachers, because the teachers also have been colonized. And we also train the trainers of the teachers who write the exam board specifications. So when, as a student, you're doing your exam, whoever's writing that exam is coming from a certain perspective, right? And it's more than likely they don't have that educational grounding in our history. So for us, we're trying to get across as much as we can the education system to kind of find pain points and people to work with to make sure that education is more richer, it's creative, it's accessible, and it's relevant to our culture. How many of us get so bored and turn off because the persons that we're learning from just don't have an engaging style of delivery? It's boring. We want to be engaged. We want to learn through our own ways and cultures, and so that's what Black curriculum is doing at the moment.
Amazing. Please give it up for Lavinya and the Black curriculum for that. Really amazing work. And as I move on from that, I'm going to invite this young woman in our midst. I'm going to spell out and call out her full name, so that you can get the full identity and person of the lady you're going to listen to. Her name is Ebere Chukwu Daniela Aliyah Alicia Okafor White. Give it up for her. So, Ebere Chukwu, can you please tell me what has been your involvement with the Black curriculum, and just share your experience of that journey so far?
Okay, thank you for that. I don't know if you can tell from my name, but I'm Nigerian, hence the long name. But no, absolutely. So I first encountered the Black curriculum when I was my first year of uni, and I was going through things, and I was like, okay, I really want to be involved in the Black space, because there's never been a club, there's never been an activity that has been not advertised, but pushed towards me that was of something that I relate to, somewhere that I am. I'm Nigerian and Tishan, so I really wanted to be involved in a space that would help my people and pull me back into that. So through my research, I found out about the Black curriculum, and since then I was following, and then I had the opportunity to join as a young champion. The Young Champions work adjacent with the Black curriculum, and what we do is we support Lavinya and the team with creative projects, and then even ourselves, we might create workshops and go out and network and go to exhibitions and etc. So I've been so privileged to be a part of that. Thank you so much. And then that brings me here today, working alongside with Lavinya, delivering this screening to you all, and being able to put, as Lavinya said, young people in the center of the discussion, whilst also bringing it back home and being able to talk to them about that and enlighten them on what's actually going on in the continent, because there's not enough of that in our schools at all.
Yes, thank you very much for that. There is really a scarcity of knowledge circulation. We talk a lot about knowledge production and our knowledge creation, but there's a serious problem with knowledge circulation. And I think that is where the theme that has been produced by the Black curriculum comes in. And I want to talk to you a little bit more about that, Lavinya, and what triggered the production of this theme. And you made a very intentional choice of the people that were interviewed. Can you please provide us with some additional insights into why the film was produced, why those particular set of people were chosen to be featured in the film, and then what has happened since then?
So I just want to shout out the producers. They're not obviously here today, but they're called Transmission, and their purpose is to transmit stories that aren't told. But funny story, I actually, niliandikiwa kitabu. So I wrote a book, and it was about Black histories.
Can you imagine that? She's an author already. What am I doing here?
So I wrote a book, and then basically the publishers are part of HarperCollins, right? And the stories that I was writing in that, I just think they were just like, oh, this is a bit much. I was talking about reparations. And they were just giving me so much problems, like matatizo. So I just said, listen, I'm done. So I took it back. I took my rights back. I pulled out of the deal, which is unheard of. But for me, it was important that I could write what I wanted in my way. And so I was a bit sad, of course. But then after that, I then said to my friends, listen, let's just use some of what I've written and put it into a film. It's about reparations. And then ultimately, I'm going to tell you the truth, I have cousins in Jamaica that said, listen, man, I read the book, you know. If you put it into a film, I will watch it, but I'm not going to read it. So I said, listen, like, I know my people, like, let's just put it into something that's accessible. And so that's basically how Omitted came about. But then also, I would say that because last year there was a reparations conference in the UK that happens yearly, and it's organized by an MP called Belle Ribeiro. I wanted to utilize the space because I know that this conversation, there's a lot of like, every time we talk is like the same things or rehearse, and we know it's a problem, but there wasn't a way to kind of capture the conversation. So I wanted to almost support what they were doing to kind of capture the voices and then to kind of bring it out to other people who maybe didn't even know about the conference or couldn't make it down on the day. So again, it's making education accessible and bringing it to people. So yeah, that's how it was birthed. And yeah.
Excellent. And you mentioned that you got, and this was in the film, you got most of your education by listening to reggae music. Who are the reggae fans in the room? Any reggae fans? Fantastic. I think we find ourselves, right?
Yeah.
But yes. But this is really important because it's exactly what we intended as well for Wakati Wetu. The role of arts, music, and the creative industry for the advancement of reparatory justice education. And you also mentioned something about the cousins and family in Jamaica who said, if you put it in the book, we will not read it. But if you... and there's a proverb that they often use, that if you want to hide something from a black man or an African, put it in writing, right? which is quite demeaning. Because there have been some of the inventions were written by black people, right? And have been co-opted and adopted. But we are going to move on. This is, again, a space for conversation and education. So we're going to educate ourselves before we wrap up this session. I'm going to move on to you, Eberechukwu. And one of the things that I've learned since the interactions started with the Black curriculum is that they're not just promoting intergenerational dialogue, they're also promoting intergenerational action. And this is what is being exemplified here by having Eberechukwu, who talked about the groups that they set up in various schools and various educational settings. Can you please tell us how you go about doing that? And especially because of the topic. The topic is sometimes quite tough for young audiences. How do you engage with people, your peers, in schools and in educational institutions to educate them or to create a space for education on this issue?
So recently I delivered a workshop at one of our partnering schools, and what we what I spoke about there is I spoke to teachers about how to create a creative curriculum. And then also I was able to tell them about a lesson plan that I had in mind where we actually walk teachers first through the lesson. So we hear, in the UK, we hear a lot about Windrush and people coming from the Caribbean coming over to the motherland to help with the economy. But we don't get into how they were treated, the reception that they had there, and how that wasn't really reflected in the way that Britain made it come across. And through walking the teachers through my lesson plan, they themselves were able to see how we could engage students and capture their minds, because it's really hard to keep kids focused on what you're saying, especially when it's very technical and you're speaking about things that maybe didn't happen in their lifetime. But by going through that with teachers and them learning, but also me, myself, learning how to further engage the teachers and the students, we were both able to learn that this is what we need to be doing, this is what we need to be going for, the conversations that we need to be having in the classroom, as well as please take it out of the classroom and use this in your lives to educate people that might not know, not just students, but other adults as well. Yeah.
Also, can I just say you've done a lot on social media?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. We also have Instagram page, TikTok page, whatever social media that you like. And if you go on there, you'll see that we've had partnerships with like the English Heritage, where we're talking about things that have been missed. In the UK, we have these blue plaques, and there's a very brief description of the people who might have lived where the blue plaque is. Recently, me and another member of the Young Champions were able to go and talk about that in a lot more depth, whilst also on other posts, we can actually get to the nitty-gritty of, like, one of the ideas I had from this was really explaining Mau Mau in a way that hasn't been visited before. So if you go through our social media pages, you'll see a lot of that. But that's the role that me and a lot of other young people are taking up in that space and trying to continue the conversation of reparations, not just in festivals or conferences where we're not in, and take it to where we are.
Fantastic, fantastic. Please, let's give it up. Let's give it up for Eberechukwu and the team. And this is exactly what we need. And I'm going to come to the audience. And we are in an educational room. So we're all going to educate ourselves today. Everybody's going to talk. So nobody's going to leave this room. Everybody's going to talk. just to alert you. And I'm going to is there a mic around? I know people want to ask questions, but before I get the question, for those of you who watched the film, can you just use one word to describe how you feel? Firstly, raise your hand up if it made you feel anyhow. Did the film make you feel anyhow? Did it trigger any emotion? All right, so I'm going to come to the brother, but we'll start from this table in the front. You watched the film. I know you were here. Please tell me, if you don't mind, this is no pressure, no rush. If you want to move the mic to another table, we can move it. But in one word, perhaps you can just use one person on the table. How did it make you feel? And I'm going to come to Eberechukwu.
I also want to say the two most insightful questions get some merch from us today.
So you see the T-shirt I'm wearing? I got it from them. So if you support black education, you have to say something before you leave. but just one word about what you learned from the film or how it made you feel. And then we move to the different tables. Just introduce your name and just say one word.
My name is Abdiaziz Shale from Bandung, Africa. We also deal with, decolonizing the black curriculum.
Excellent.
And the film was, enlightening. But I feel like, they forgot the African continent. Mm-hmm. Most of them talked about, the Caribbean. But, the African continent, was widely affected by the British colonization.
Yes. So, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Excellent. Thank you. Next table. Tasha, Jocelyn, and Maurice. Luckily, I know some of people's names here, so I'll call your names.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the presentation and the movie. So what struck me, I think, deeper was the information about how the money that was used to put together universities and educational institutes like Liverpool, Manchester, and Oxford were all related to slavery and the colonial enterprise. So it got me thinking about what is the responsibility of this educational institutes, and how can we further the relation between education and reparation. So, yes. And I would love to hear more from you about that.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Tasha.
You want just one person?
If you have something to say, it doesn't necessarily mean. We can move it as well if you want. But if you want to say something briefly.
I'll just say briefly, I feel very curious. Yeah. So I'm also excited to learn more.
Fantastic, fantastic. Next table.
Hi, I met the two sisters earlier, so really exceptional work. I missed the presentation, but I will be seeing it from Peter Herbert from Bandung, Africa, and my colleagues in the front. Two things. One, would definitely like to invite you to come to Arusha, November 19th to 22nd.
Excellent,
in person or virtually. A friend of mine, Claudia Webb, the MP for Leicester East, has just agreed to come. I just heard. So you'll be in good company. But one question that troubles me is that here, the level of, and all over the continent, the level of misinformation to subsequent generations before, during, and after independence, it's on a level which explains the big white Jesus on Langata Road here, and everything else in between. So, the way in which each country, particular what the British supposedly left, because they took a lot, is the Institute for Curriculum Development. Mm-hmm. There's a very hierarchical structure in English-speaking and Francophone Africa which determines the curriculum for every child. And it removes Mau Mau, it removes the Senegalese history, it removes Côte d'Ivoire, everything you like, but is, given that there are 1.4 billion people on this continent, and only a few of us, relatively speaking, in the diaspora, how do you foresee in your future years being able to connect with those activists on the continent who are trying to rework that with all too reluctant governments, but from a community perspective, to engage with re-education?
Yeah.
You understand?
Fantastic. Really good question, because, and we'll come to that in the responses. Next table, please. Anybody on the next table? Okay. Yes.
Thank you so much. It's amazing what you're doing with Black curriculum. We're very proud of you. There's something my mom always says, that you have to know where you're coming from to know where you're going. And even for those of us born on the continent, we live on the continent, we still don't even have much information about what happened and where we're going. And I always say that we need to bring young people into the space for them to know exactly where we're coming from, where we're going, and also to resolve that we're not going to let some of the things that happened centuries ago happen again. So I'd like to say that with Black curriculum, more of a question, how are the young people accepting, or let's say, how are they responding to what is it that you're doing, this education that you're trying to bring them in? Has it been positive? Are they very happy about it, looking forward to, knowing about themselves, their history, and where they're going? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. The table. Anyone from the table? Behind. Yes.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to say.
No.
I just want to echo everyone said. It's amazing the work that you've done. It's work that needs doing. My only comment was, how much impact has it made in general UK education, in terms of the overall curriculum that is taught today within it, and how much impact have you made there? It's really interesting. I hear the other lady's comment about, I didn't know the connection between education and slavery. And I don't think most people in the UK do. And the problem is that when that came through with the Trevelyan's, that was huge news in the UK. But I don't know really how many people actually took that in. And that concerns me an awful lot. There's been huge things in the past for years about Oxford. And you must know about the Oriel College and the people there. That, I mean, all the Oxbridge colleges were based on slavery, all of them. You've got some specifics, you can say, Newman College was this, but basically they all were. A friend of mine does a thing every year for Black History Month. You go around the city of London, literally every building was based on slavery, every single one. There, London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool. And in terms of universities, Glasgow a few years ago was the first university that actually came out and actually said, you know what, we recognise all the way in Scotland that our buildings and our university based on slavery. Again, they tried to do anything. They've done it through education in terms of promoting that in various countries in the world, in the UK, where have you. But it's there, and the information is there, it's out there, people are talking on it, it's on TV, it's everywhere, and people still can go like, I didn't know that.
Exactly.
People have known it for a long, long time. And my question is, how can we make more traction with people in general so they actually know? And because, to be honest, if this group of people don't know, who on earth will?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll move to the next table, to the brother, and then the final table at the back. Okay.
Thank you so much. Musungu Muturi. I am an editor right here in Kenya. And first of all, I want to appreciate you for creating the film, Omitted. And why it speaks to me, it's because I believe it's inclusive in that it allows, well, I still come from that generation of people, young generation would say, maybe I'm not interested in the books or whatever you put in research papers, but you've allowed us to consume that in form of a film, and which is also quite inclusive. And then maybe I should also refer to what the gentleman said there. As a person who's in the publishing industry, I understand how difficult it is for the curriculum development institutes, and even as we try to put such themes around reparations in the book, and they take notice of this, they will shoot it down.
Exactly.
So even better that we have multimedia approaches, so that we can even use them as a way to counter the challenges that we face in putting these themes in the book.
Thank you very much. And then to the brother, and then finally Michael. But the brother in front before Michael. No, the one in front here, and then Michael at the back.
Oh, the Kaka. Kaka. Anyway, first I want to say big up Black curriculum.
Big up!
For making us educated so the Europeans can't keep us dumb. You get it? Yes. Yeah, man. I want to say a few things. I want to ask you a few questions, and I also want to make a comment. So, now, how does it feel, two Nubians in Britain, in Europe, with such a diverse production group to make a film? Maybe the dada is from Nigeria, that's Western Africa. The dada is also African, but you know, she born in Jamaica. There was a hygiene in it. I think it's from Barbados.
Grenada. Grenada.
Oh, from Grenada.
Yeah.
Anyway, see. And then maybe a few who may be born in England. Yeah. That's one. How does it feel to work with such a diverse group? Working on such film that's dealing with the enslavement of the Africans. And next thing, I see you mentioned something about these shipping companies back then who was transporting our brothers and sisters from Africa into the Western world. Many Africans in Africa identify the game of football through Manchester, Liverpool, Tottenham, and all these places were shipping companies, shipping yards. who are transporting us as Africans. So it's good that you highlight something of such. Now, if we can even expound more on it, it would bring us most to ourselves so we can know not to think about those teams. We have Goma here, we have Mama Lady Sundown from South Africa, so we can focus football mainly in Africa. And next thing I was thinking to myself, we need to decolonize the education by rewriting the curriculum from an African reality and an African perspective. If not, we are just perpetuating European ideology and pretending that we are doing something good, when we're only going deeper in the decadence of ignorance. And finally, is there a committee in UK for reparation? And is it very active, knowing that you and your team make such a wonderful film, to bring back, they call it the Sankofa, to go back to retrieve so we can go forward and don't make the same mistake, which is the Akan. And finally, as Africans, we need to know this. Even if you don't born in Africa, Africa is inside of you. And that was said by Kwame. Let me say Osajefo, Kwame and Nkrumah. And also Marcus Marley Garvey says, a tree without knowledge of a human being or an African without knowledge of their past is like a tree without root. We must stop apologizing, we must get up and we must put in the work. So, Dada, or Wadada, Asante Sana, big up on yourself, enough respect.
Enough respect.
And wagwan.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Michael. Let me get up. I'm with Reform Initiative. So one of the main reflections I've been having is, and I think you just re-echoed that, how as Africans we can take charge of our history and tell our story. Maybe it's because we have a tradition of oral storytelling rather than documented. So something like this is very important. I think we should continue doing things like this because a lot of our curriculums, the contents are written from European perspectives. And when you even compare it to some of the communities that experience some of those things with the Europeans, you realize that the story is even different from their perspective. And that's the story we should be learning in schools. Mm-hmm. Also, one thing I've been wondering about, especially being a young person, how have you been able to make young people interested in reparative justice? Because a lot of the time that is not an interest, that is not a priority. So how are you handling that in the UK, and how maybe those of us on the African continent can also replicate?
Wow, lots of amazing questions and comments. Please, let's give it up for all of us and for each other. Lavinya, lots of questions.
So many.
Yes. So
yeah.
Take it on, wherever you want to start.
Okay. I'll start with the committee because I think that was just like the easiest one for me to just address. To your question, and thank you for all of them. I'm so tired of committees. I think the lady was saying earlier, like death by protocol, all of this, like every time there's like a fire, I think the way that neo-coloniality makes it extinguished is by bureaucracy. Let's have another committee meeting, let's have another framework. And it's like, we can just go into a school and do this work if you find a teacher. Or better yet, we can just create it ourselves. We don't actually have to have a formal structure to go into. So I think for us, it's like, well, for me personally, and also I would say as an extension of the Black curriculum, our work is more about just like doing it and building with people. So even right now, we screened this in Ghana in May, right? Right now, there's 3 schools, 3 legacy schools, Achimota, Accra Girls, and Presec, that are doing a debate on reparations, and that's all the history classes. So that's a practical and actionable thing that we have done with someone who's based in Ghana, is leading that work with the young people, and I would say that that's the kind of agenda that we're pushing forward. Do you want to answer a question?
Yeah, there was a few questions directed towards how young people are engaging with the discussion around reparations, and I feel like I feel like it hasn't taken off yet. Even though we're pushing for it, here in rooms like this, it hasn't yet taken off, and that's what our film is trying to do, but also the work that we do. So again, going back to what Lavinya said, starting at ground zero and starting in the classrooms, or in my case, the universities, and just having a discussion with the people, that's where we're getting engagement from. Through our workshops and our lessons that we've planned in the schools that we've gone into, we've seen so much change and so much engagement from teachers, from schools, and most importantly, from the students. So you can see that that's something that they really want to learn. So I think not yet, it hasn't gone off just yet, but soon come.
Definitely. And I would say to that as well, on the side of how we make reparations accessible for young people, I think this is a thing that we was discussing. The language of reparations sometimes feels like distant. But if you tell a young person, do you want to get into law? All right, cool. If you want to get into law, you're going to put on that white wig? And they'll be like, hell no. So it's almost like that in and of itself is a conversation about how we decolonize our minds. Again, if you think about entertainment, how many of us are more likely to know a brand that is Western, like Courvoisier or Hennessy? But there are Kenyan brands, there are Kenyan spirits, we have our own things, but it's like, it's not the first thing that we come to. So I think there's ways to engage young people that doesn't necessarily have to start with, the big title of reparations, but it's about the small things that they encounter day to day. That is the conversation starter. And then also to your question about the impact, we've reached over 20,000 young people. Most of the young people that we've interviewed and done the evaluation with have said that they've built their confidence about the knowledge of their history. And then when we train the teachers, there's a 100% feedback rate to say that they've got more confidence. But once we've left training them, we don't know how they're going to implement it. So we just have to trust that, right, we've taught the kids, we've taught the teachers, they're engaging with our work. Hopefully they book us back to come in. And so it's kind of over to them. And I think that's the structure that the government really wants, which is why we're campaigning for the government to put it in the curriculum as mandatory, so that every teacher in their training and when they're delivering actually has to engage with that. And I would say that we've made some advancement on that because Wales mandated the teaching of Black history. Whilst we're based in England, we're still waiting for the English government to do the same, but we did have an effect on that decision in Wales. I would say that there is a lot of, trajectory with that, or momentum. But I think the key thing is that, and I was saying this earlier, we can create our own structure. So to your question, Peter, around how do we engage with curriculum development and activists, I think it's how do we create, I hate this word informal, because what we're doing is very formal, it's very structured, but how do we create networks with people who are already educated or already, maybe they've left the teaching profession because it was so exhausting and tiresome. How do we work with them to build a structure that could exist alongside a school, and maybe building networks with parents who don't trust the school system? So I think that's what the work that we're doing on, it's built on that Saturday school movement. And I'd love to connect with teachers, ex-teachers, students in the room. We're actually having a meet and greet tomorrow at Cheche Bookstore, 3 p.m. The whole idea is that we want to make sure that the networks that maybe have failed in the formal system can be used outside.
Yeah. There was something said about including Africa into the conversation of what Omitted is saying, and I think that it's despite us talking a lot about the Caribbean, this is still very central to Africa, hence why we're here today, but also going into schools in Africa, which we are intending on doing, which we've done in Ghana, and then also conversations like these, so the conversations that we're trying to have at the bookstore tomorrow, center that and center how Mau Mau has been taught in schools in the UK and also schools in Kenya, and how we ourselves can reframe that through discussions that we're going to have. I hope that gets to your point.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think it's about choosing what we want to learn. Because who says that learning, okay, physics is nice, right? And it's good. But how does that connect to a career here right now. So why are we not shaping our own curriculums and things that are relevant to the skills that the future that we desire? Can we now start creating those subjects? Why do we have to, even if we say we want our own curriculum, it doesn't have to follow maths, English, science. It could be whatever we want it to be. It's nice that we can, go back out into the real world and have like discussions about, economics and law. But it would be also nice if we can ground what we're doing in something that's relevant to us. And I'm interested in that. Like, what is it that the young people want to talk about? Is it the recent protests that happened? Can we talk about political protesting and the history of that and how to sharpen our skills as activists to create change? Like, what does those kind of conversations look like?
Excellent. Please, another round of applause for the questions and the responses. Thank you very much. We are wrapping up. And the last word I want to give to both Eberechukwu and to Lavinya. And I'll start with you, Eberechukwu. In 1 minute, the people that are in this room, when they're leaving, what message do you want to leave them with? The same question applies to you, but first to Eberechukwu. What's your message?
What I really hope sticks is that without being properly educated in our own history, like the lovely lady at the back said, without being properly educated in our own history, we can't truly realize, we can't truly actualize, because we don't know what came before us and we don't know what the struggles were had. So that's why conversations surrounding reparations also have to include education. That's paramount.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And to you, Lavinya?
Yeah.
Message and call to action.
Okay, a call to action. Tomorrow, come. Well, no, seriously, please, share it with your networks. We just want to basically meet people because I don't think that I'm the person to drive this work. I'm not saying that. I know for sure there's a person or people who are already doing this that we can connect with. We can help them with resources from the UK to drive it, you know what I mean, and connect with other young change makers. And I think that's what I'm keen on. So how can we take the baton and continue education and tear down the colonial mindsets that do exist, from parents to teachers to young people ourselves. So I think, yeah, my call to action is join us. If you haven't, please follow us, the Black Curriculum, and hopefully we'll see you guys again very, very soon.
Thank you very much. Please join me in thanking these phenomenal women for this awesome job. Awesome.